Okay fine, you were triggered, triggering is a thing now. Fine, but throwing a pumpkin filled with dog shit at me. A Tits Rumping Co. Ltd. And associate letters to the editor editorial, as in the editor writes letters and you think about it for a second because you threw a pumpkin filled with dog shit straight at me fucking head, what the hell. So this one is just for that dickhead Iraq veteran in the finance office who threw the pumpkin filled with dog shit at me. Everyone else who wanted to read, then you can read about what someone who has no goddamn common decency thinks is fine to do to someone just because they made a joke that a special someone found distasteful. That's all I have to say today. I am extremely upset and I'm not open to taking any more phone calls about the matter until I calm down. Looking back, I suppose I made this particular joke because of that Jim Nut from Starbucks who gives me the business. For once, I wanted to be the one drumming on someone. So while we were discussing that whole thing about inserting a picture file into a Microsoft Word document, over at the finance office I saw this special young person who had served in the military drinking a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I asked him if he was too special for Starbucks, and in order to make the joke my own, and not just copy that dickhead from the coffee shop, I tapped a rapid trill on the man's cheeks. His face, get the hell out of here if you were thinking something else. I was tapping on his face. I knew he was an Iraq veteran because that's why I hired him, but I didn't realize he would get triggered. Not by the drumming routine, he found that hilarious. I apparently used a disparaging word for asexual people. He was extremely triggered by this, because apparently he is some kind of alternative identity where instead of being gay you hardly have any sex at all and don't even like eyeing the girls. It was not right then and there that he struck me, as you may have inferred from the title. He would not have had the elements of his revenge on hand in his office or on hand at an adjacent office. But at some point he must have procured a pumpkin and gutted it, like for a jack-o'-lantern, and then stuffed it with dog feces that he procured from elsewhere. Mind you, it is the middle of April, I have no idea where he got a pumpkin. Take a wild guess where he got dog feces, stupid ass. So flash forward to me unlocking my car in what I thought was a secured parking garage, where I was told you needed a badge and the guy down at the ground level had to wave you in after you scanned it. I believe I was going to pick up dinner for curbside takeout from. Oh, I believe that night I was having Olive Garden. I do eat things other than steak, you know, I'm not like a robot or something. So suddenly I hear him say, "Oh, I don't know," he got my attention. Something stupid. I turn around and he is about 15 feet away, and he chucks a goddamn pumpkin in my direction. Now bear in mind, the pumpkin wasn't carved up like a jack-o'-lantern. It's the middle of April. Folks, remember, he had carved very thin slits uniformly across the length of the pumpkin, along the indentations in the fruit. I remember as the pumpkin was sailing towards my head noticing this and wondering about the idiosyncratic style element of his choosing. But this all happened very quickly. The fruit burst into many pieces, covering me and my fucking car in dog shit. The dog shit got into my car as well, since I had the door open, and thrashed around considerably, dropping my goddamn keys in the process too. I barely recognized the man because I had been wearing sunglasses, as my pupils were quite dilated when I set out to pick up my dinner, and I didn't need that older gal at the Olive Garden saying shit to me. When I removed the glasses and saw it was one of my employees, one that to my knowledge was an authentic hire off the street and not one of my dumb-ass putative children, I was shocked and demanded to know what he did that for. He said back to me, "Oh, are you triggered?" which is derivative of an op-ed I published a while back, which I reminded him for his information was actually titled, "Oh, you're triggered." It's 3 words, it's not hard to remember. He proceeded to pin me to the ground, really showing his army prowess by sitting on a 108-year-old man and nearly crushing his goddamn lungs, fat ass. He asked again if I was triggered, and I suggested that perhaps he had been in the Navy instead of the Army, due to the connotations that guys in the Navy are maybe homosexual in many instances. At this point he actually pummeled me with his fists, but I was being disrespectful, I can acknowledge that now. I eventually did concede that triggering was a thing. Oh, I forgot, the reason it triggered him when I slapped his cheeks with that rhythmic motif like Captain Steroids does to me is because he was once assaulted by that same asshole at the Starbucks. When I heard we had this in common, I thought for sure we could bond over that, but I was a little winded and I think I forgot to tell him. I may have made more disparaging comments about his sexuality, but I forget if I implied he was a homosexual or if I leaned into the asexuality thing. I guess sometimes I get afraid to say I was wrong or that I'm sorry, but I assume these things are implied once a clear victor is evidenced by the outcome of the circumstances in question. He clearly hooped my ass. I thought we were done. Much to my surprise, we ran into each other at the American Legion a few days later. We hadn't seen each other at work, but I was avoiding the finance office because I was sheepish to have to apologize. I intended to tell him he owed me a beer. This is a commonplace technique among men my age to apologize in a masculine manner which avoids excessive discussion of feelings, but he called me jack of a pumpkin filled with dog shit and several of his Navy buddies beat the living hell out of me. The Legion staff eventually broke it up, but I suspect they let this go on for quite some time because of my track record of bad behavior at the American Legion. I don't want to pay signature lounge prices every time I want a drink outside of my home, but I'm not sure if I can return to the American Legion as they seem to sympathize with the special young man, but the place is dimly lit and could well have been busy. My memory of the entire event is cloudy because of the beating I endured. I don't think his reaction was necessary, nor was his follow-up that involved several military men jumping me at the American Legion when I was just going to ask him to join me in a few rounds, perhaps shoot some pool after me beta blockers had kicked in. I may have more to say about this situation, but that will have to be next week as I am exceeding the character limit. 4. Submitted from my me phone. Mr. IP Tuts, Tits Rump Publishing Inc. Co. Ltd.